The Vega colony was one of humanity's brightest dreams. Built on a green world far from Earth, it was home to almost 200,000 men, women, and children. Tall towers reached the skies, farms spread across wide valleys, and young children played in the open parks without fear. Every night, families gathered to watch the twin moons rise, glowing like silver eyes above the quiet land. People believed this place would be their future, safe from the wars and problems of Earth. But safety was only an illusion. For 3 days, Earth lost contact with Vega colony. At first, officials thought it was a technical problem. Colonies often faced storms that blocked signals or power cuts that damaged equipment. But this time, the silence was too long, too heavy. The scientists at the communication center checked again and again, sending new messages, but no reply came back. The colony's signal towers were gone, like they had never existed. At first, no one panicked. News agencies told the public not to worry. Leaders said it was temporary silence. But in hidden rooms, military officers stared at the blank screens with unease. Something was wrong. Colonies do not go silent for days. Colonies always respond, even with weak signals. This was different. This was dead silence. On the 4th day, a broken transmission finally reached Earth. It was short, damaged, full of static and screams. The sound of alarms blared in the background, followed by shouts, weapons fire, and then a single voice crying, "Run! Run now!" After that, nothing. The transmission cut into silence again, leaving every listener frozen. In the control center, technicians turned pale. Some refused to replay it, but the military forced them to. Again and again, the screams echoed across the room. One general whispered, "That was no storm. That was an attack." But who? And why? Far away, on the edge of human space, a patrol ship scanned the stars. Its sensors picked up something unusual. Debris floating in the dark, metal fragments drifting like bones of a graveyard. The crew pulled closer, and their lights revealed pieces of colony ships, civilian transports, torn apart, burned, and empty. Among the wreckage, they found something more chilling. Scorched walls marked with deep, claw-like burns. Weapons had ripped through steel like paper. No human technology left marks like these. The captain of the patrol ship sent the evidence back to Earth. When the images reached the government council, silence filled the chamber. Every leader stared at the destroyed ships. The colony was gone. The people were gone. But the question burned inside every mind: who had done this? Rumors spread across Earth faster than truth. Some said it was a rival human faction. Some whispered about rogue AI. Others believed it was aliens, but no one dared say it loudly. For centuries, humanity had searched for intelligent life and found nothing. To admit that aliens not only existed but also slaughtered an entire colony, that idea shook every heart. But in the shadows, the truth was darker. Military intelligence had captured a faint energy signature near Vega's orbit. It was not human. The design, the pattern, the strength, it matched nothing in human records. Something unknown had entered human space, something powerful enough to erase 200,000 lives in a single strike. Families on Earth waited for news. Mothers asked when they would hear from their children on Vega. Fathers sent messages that would never be answered. Children asked why their sisters and brothers were not calling anymore. The officials kept silent, too afraid to speak. But whispers of the screams in the transmission leaked into the public. Fear spread like fire. On the 5th day, another discovery changed everything. A small shuttle, damaged and nearly destroyed, drifted near a trade route. It had no power left, only weak life signs inside. Rescue teams pulled it aboard and opened the hatch. Inside, they found one man, half burned, his face blackened with smoke, his uniform torn. He was the first survivor of Vega. His lips trembled as he spoke, barely able to breathe. The first words he whispered were, "They came. They slaughtered everyone." Doctors rushed him to medical care, but generals surrounded him, desperate for answers. Who attacked? What did they look like? The survivor coughed blood and finally said, "Tall, armored, their eyes like fire. They killed without mercy. They wanted no land, no gold, no resources. They only wanted us dead." His voice broke as he repeated, "They wanted blood." Then he fainted. The room fell silent. The generals looked at each other, their faces pale. This was no accident. This was war. But the question remained, what kind of enemy would cross the stars only to destroy? That night, Earth's skies glowed with the lights of ships preparing, scanning, moving into higher alert. Civilians saw the movements and grew restless. Questions filled the air, but answers never came. The government could not admit the truth yet. To admit the truth meant chaos. To admit the truth meant every human in the galaxy would know they were hunted. But the truth could not be hidden for long. Somewhere in the dark, far from Earth, alien warships drifted in silence, watching, waiting, preparing to strike again. Humanity had felt safe for too long. Vega Colony was only the beginning. The silence of Vega was no accident. It was a warning. And soon, all of humanity would hear it. The small shuttle drifted like a ghost in the endless dark. Its metal surface was burned black, engines silent, lights broken. No one should have survived inside, yet sensors picked up a weak life sign. A nearby trade vessel, carrying food supplies, changed its course. The captain, a middle-aged woman named Mara, ordered her crew to pull the shuttle aboard. When they forced the hatch open, smoke spilled out like a dying breath. Inside, strapped to the pilot's seat, was a man barely alive. His uniform was torn, his skin burned, his breathing shallow. He had somehow escaped the massacre of Vega Colony. His eyes fluttered open for a moment, and his cracked lips moved. The rescuers leaned closer, desperate to hear. Only one word came out. Aliens. The word shook everyone who heard it. Humanity had dreamed for centuries of meeting other life. Scientists prayed for peaceful discovery, explorers searched the stars for neighbors, philosophers wondered what such contact would mean. But here, in this ruined shuttle, the first real proof of alien life had come, not in friendship, but in slaughter. The crew rushed him to the medical bay. Machines worked to stabilize his body, doctors injected fluids and painkillers, and still he thrashed in his sleep, muttering words that chilled the rescuers. They came, fire, no mercy. For hours, he drifted between life and death. Finally, when the ship reached the nearest military outpost, soldiers took him into custody. Not because they wanted to harm him, but because they needed answers. He was the only witness left from Vega Colony. Without him, humanity was blind. In a dim room, surrounded by doctors and generals, the man slowly opened his eyes. His name, they discovered, was Commander Rian Holt. He had been head of security on Vega Colony. His voice was weak, but his memory was sharp, burned into him like scars. The generals asked the first question carefully, what happened on Vega? Rian's hands shook as he gripped the edge of the bed. He stared at the ceiling for a long time before speaking. It started at night. The sky lit up with fire. We thought it was meteors, maybe a storm. Then the alarms sounded. Hundreds of ships fell from orbit. They were not ours. They moved like hunters. His voice cracked, but he forced himself to continue. They attacked the colony shields first. In less than 10 minutes, the defenses were gone. Their weapons were like nothing we've seen. Blue beams cut through towers, fields burned, children screamed. We fought back with everything we had, but it was useless. They tore through soldiers like paper. The generals leaned forward. Describe them. Rian closed his eyes, and his whole body tensed as if reliving the nightmare. They were tall, armored. Their faces were hidden behind dark helmets, but their eyes glowed red. Not human eyes, something worse. When they looked at you, it was like they didn't see a person. Only prey. They killed without hesitation. Men, women, children, it didn't matter. They didn't want food or resources. They only wanted us dead. The room was silent. Even the doctors stopped moving. One general whispered. What do they call themselves? Rian shook his head slowly. I don't know. They never spoke to us. The only sound they made was war cries. Loud, violent, echoing. It was like hearing death itself shout. His voice began to shake as he remembered more. I saw families trying to run to the spaceport. The aliens bombed the escape shuttles before they could launch. Hundreds died in seconds. I tried to hold the line with my men, but wave after wave kept coming. They didn't even care about casualties. They just kept advancing. A doctor placed a hand on his shoulder, telling him to rest, but Rian pushed on. I saw them, dragging bodies. Not just killing. They took some people alive. I don't know why. Maybe for experiments. Maybe worse. His eyes filled with tears, but his voice hardened. They left no mercy behind. The generals exchanged worried looks. One of them said, "Why did they leave you alive?" Rian gave a broken laugh. They didn't. My men bought me time. They pushed me into a shuttle and covered my escape. I watched them fall one by one. By the time I left orbit, the colony was already burning. 200,000 lives, gone in hours. His words hit the room like a hammer. 200,000 lives erased. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, the highest-ranking general stood and said, "This is an act of war. Humanity cannot ignore it." But not everyone agreed. Some of the officials in nearby stations began to doubt his story. They whispered behind closed doors. Some said Rian was hallucinating from trauma. Others suggested it was rebels or pirates with stolen technology. Admitting aliens had arrived would shake the entire foundation of human society. People would panic. Governments would collapse. But the generals knew the truth. The wreckage proved it. The survivors' testimony proved it. This was no human enemy. This was something new. That night, Rian Holt sat alone in the infirmary. He stared out the small window at the stars. His heart ached with guilt. Why had he survived when so many had not? Every time he closed his eyes, he saw their faces, the children playing in the park, the families laughing at dinner, the soldiers who had trusted him to lead them. All gone. His whispers were only for himself, but the nurse who walked by heard him. He was saying the same words over and over. They will come again. They will come for Earth. Meanwhile, in the darkness of space, patrol ships reported strange energy readings. Something was moving at the edge of human territory. Something large. The news had not yet reached Earth, but the signs were clear. Vega Colony was not the end. It was only the beginning. The survivor had spoken, and his truth was terrifying. Aliens had come. Aliens had slaughtered. And now, the galaxy would never be the same. The news reached Earth like a thunderclap. First, it spread through the military channels, classified reports, encrypted messages, whispered conversations in hidden rooms. Then it leaked into the media, and once it did, there was no way to stop it. Screens across the planet lit up with the same headline, Vega Colony destroyed, possible alien attack. Panic spread faster than any official response. In the streets of the great cities, people gathered around public screens, watching grainy images of the broken transmission. The sound of alarms, the screams, the single word, "Run!" played again and again. Mothers clutched their children tighter, workers abandoned factories, and students asked questions no teacher could answer. Fear became a living thing, crawling through every home. Governments tried to calm the storm. Leaders appeared on television, telling the people that investigations were ongoing, that nothing was confirmed, that they should remain calm. But their eyes betrayed them. Even through the camera, the fear was visible. They already knew the truth, or at least enough of it. Vega had not fallen by accident. It had been slaughtered. In the heart of Earth's capital, the Global Council met in emergency session. The chamber was a giant ring filled with delegates from every nation and colony. Some shouted for immediate action, demanding war. Others urged caution, insisting that humans should not rush into a fight without understanding the enemy. The arguments filled the hall like a storm. One delegate from Mars Colony raised his voice above the rest. If we do nothing, they will strike again. You think Vega was the last? No. Vega was only the beginning. Another delegate from Europa Station shouted back. And if we attack blindly, we may doom ourselves. We don't even know what they want. We don't know how many they are. The council leader, an old woman with sharp eyes, struck her gavel. The sound echoed across the chamber, silencing the noise for a moment. We cannot waste time on fear. We must decide, peace or war. Delay means death. But even she knew the choice was not simple. Humanity had never faced an enemy like this before. At the same time, across Earth, the people were already making their own decisions. Families rushed to stock food and water. Spaceports were flooded with civilians begging for tickets off-world, anywhere away from Earth. Conspiracy groups claimed the government had known about aliens for years and had hidden the truth. Religious leaders declared it a test from God. Streets filled with both protests and prayers. The generals, however, had no time for debates. In underground bunkers, they studied the survivors' testimony and the wreckage from Vega. They played the recordings again and again, analyzing every sound, every image. The alien weapons were stronger, faster, more advanced than human technology. Yet one admiral pointed at the screen with determination. They bleed. They are not gods. If they can be fought, they can be beaten. His words lit a fire in the room. Plans began to form, fleets began to mobilize, orders were sent. The military would not wait for politicians to agree. The first move had already begun. In one small house on the outskirts of New London, a young boy named David sat with his mother. He had seen the news. He had seen the broken faces of reporters. "Mom," he asked, his voice trembling, "are they coming here too?" His mother forced a smile, though tears filled her eyes. "No, sweetheart. Earth is strong. The soldiers will protect us." But when David went to sleep, she stared out the window at the night sky, wondering how many days they had left. Back in the council chamber, the debate reached its peak. A senator slammed his fist on the table. "You don't understand. Vega Colony had defenses. Strong defenses. And they were wiped out in minutes. What chance does Earth have?" Another voice countered. "Earth has something Vega didn't. Earth has unity. Earth has numbers. And Earth has the will to fight." The words shook the room, but still no decision came. Hours passed, arguments circled, and all the while, news from the edge of human space grew darker. More patrol ships reported strange energy readings. More colonies sent distress signals that ended in silence. The storm was moving closer. That evening, in a hidden base beneath the Atlantic Ocean, a secret was revealed to a small group of commanders. For decades, Earth had been preparing in silence. The public didn't know. Most politicians didn't know. But deep in space docks, in asteroid shipyards, in hidden factories, a reserve fleet had been built. Not dozens, not thousands, but hundreds of thousands of ships. The admiral in charge of the project stood before the gathered officers. His voice was calm but heavy. 500,000 warships. That is what humanity has kept in shadow. And now, the time has come to use them. Gasps filled the room. Even for soldiers, the number was unimaginable. 500,000 warships, ready to rise. But the admiral raised a warning finger. This fleet was built to defend humanity from itself, from civil wars, from rebellion. It was never tested against an alien enemy. We must be ready for losses. Heavy losses. Despite his words, the fire in the officer's eyes grew stronger. For the first time, there was hope. While politicians argued, soldiers prepared. While citizens panicked, engineers worked through the night. Giant construction yards lit up the darkness of orbit as ships powered on. Pilots were called back to duty. Retired soldiers were summoned. Young recruits volunteered in numbers greater than ever seen before. Humanity was afraid, but fear was slowly turning into fury. On the 6th day after the Vega massacre, the Global Council finally announced its decision to the world. The leader stood before billions of viewers, her face pale but her voice steady. The Vega colony was attacked. Not by humans. Not by rebels. By an enemy unknown to us. Thousands are dead. Families destroyed. We can no longer deny the truth. We are not alone in the galaxy, and those we have met come with violence. But let this be known. Humanity will not kneel. Humanity will not break. We will answer the call. Across the world, some wept, some cheered, some fell to their knees in prayer. But everyone understood one thing: the age of peace was over. The age of war had begun. And somewhere in the cold dark, the aliens who had destroyed Vega were preparing to strike again. The stars near the outer rim of human space flickered with unusual light. Patrol ships stationed in the silent zones began to pick up strange signals: energy spikes, unusual heat trails, and shadows moving where no human fleet was scheduled to travel. At first, commanders thought it was just the debris of destroyed colonies drifting. But soon, the patterns became too sharp, too deliberate. Something was out there, something alive. The reports reached Earth's High Command, and once again the generals gathered in secret. The survivor of Vega, Commander Rian Holt, was brought into the chamber. His body was still weak, but his mind was clear. When he saw the reports, his face went pale. "They're here," he said, his voice heavy. "They've returned." The generals asked him what he meant. He leaned forward, gripping the table with shaking hands. "This is how they work. They strike one colony, then vanish. They let fear grow. And when the fear reaches its peak, they strike again. Not just to kill but to break us inside. They want us terrified before they come." His words echoed through the room, and silence followed. Outside the chamber, the public did not yet know the aliens were back. Families tried to live normal lives, going to work, sending children to school, pretending nothing had changed. But whispers spread in every city. People claimed they saw new fleets in the night sky. Farmers on the outer colonies swore they had heard strange sounds across the fields. Traders in spaceports whispered about patrol ships that never returned. Fear crawled like a shadow across humanity's heart. One night, a listening station orbiting the edge of Ander Belt intercepted a message. It was not human. The codes were unfamiliar, the structure alien. Scientists worked day and night to decode it, and when they finally succeeded, the message chilled their blood. It was simple, written in a language of growls and clicks, but the meaning was clear. More colonies will burn. The message was sent directly to Earth's High Command. No one knew how the aliens had transmitted it, or why they had not tried to hide it. Some thought it was a mistake. Others realized the truth: it was a warning. The aliens wanted humans to know what was coming. Panic spread once again, and the council was forced to hold another emergency session. This time, the arguments were louder, angrier. Some leaders demanded peace talks, desperate to avoid war. "Maybe they only want land," one delegate said. "Maybe if we give them space, they will leave us alone." But others shouted in rage. "Did you not hear the survivor? Did you not see the wreckage? They don't want land. They don't want peace. They want us dead." The council could not agree, but while politicians shouted, the military acted. A fleet of scout ships was sent to the outer rim, armed and ready. Their mission was simple: confirm the alien presence and report back. Days later, the fleet returned, or at least what was left of it. Only 3 ships limped back to port, their hulls torn, their crews broken. One captain stood before the generals and gave his report with trembling hands. "We found them. Hundreds of ships. Maybe thousands. They waited for us. They wanted us to see them. They didn't chase us down. They let us escape. They want us afraid." His voice cracked as he added, "They're stronger than us. Faster. We barely survived." The generals pressed him for more. Did the aliens speak? Did they reveal their purpose? The captain shook his head. No. But they sent a prisoner. They let one of their soldiers be captured. It was deliberate. They wanted us to take him. The prisoner was locked inside a high-security base on Luna. The creature was tall, almost 3 meters, its armor fused to its skin like bone. Its eyes glowed faintly red, even in darkness. Scientists studied it from behind armored glass, afraid to step too close. The alien did not move for hours, only stared at its captors as if measuring them. Finally, when one scientist spoke in a trembling voice, the alien turned its head. And then, to everyone's horror, it spoke in broken human language. This is only the beginning. The words froze the blood of everyone in the room. How had it learned human speech? Why did it know what to say? Before anyone could question it further, the alien smiled, a cruel, cold expression, and stopped speaking entirely. No matter what the scientists tried, it refused to say another word. But the damage was already done. The message was clear. The enemy was not only strong. The enemy was intelligent. They understood humans well enough to taunt them. Rumors of the captured alien leaked quickly. Across Earth, people reacted with fury and fear. Some demanded the prisoner be executed immediately, a symbol of defiance. Others begged to study it, hoping to find a weakness. And still others screamed that keeping it alive would bring disaster. Commander Rian Holt, when told of the alien's words, clenched his fists. They're playing with us. They don't fear us. Not yet. But they will. In the following weeks, alien raids increased. Small colonies reported sightings of strange ships in orbit. Mining stations were left in ruins. Merchant fleets vanished without trace. And yet, the aliens never launched a full-scale invasion. They circled like wolves, testing the edges, striking where humanity was weak. It was a cruel game, and humanity knew it could not last. Finally, in a private meeting with Earth's top admirals, the hidden truth was spoken aloud. "We have no choice," said the Supreme Commander. "They will come in numbers beyond imagination. If we do not prepare, Earth will fall." He paused, his voice low but steady. "It is time to awaken the reserve fleet. All of it." The words sent a shockwave through the room. 500,000 warships, hidden for decades, would soon rise into the stars. Humanity was no longer waiting. Humanity was preparing to answer. And in the shadows beyond the rim, the alien armada stirred, engines burning, claws ready. The enemy had returned, and the galaxy trembled in silence, waiting for the fire to begin. The secret could no longer stay hidden. For decades, Earth's military had worked in silence, away from the eyes of politicians and citizens, building something greater than anyone could imagine. In deep asteroid fields, in hollowed-out moons, in shipyards hidden inside gas giants, an enormous fleet had been forged. Its size was so great that even the admirals who commanded it sometimes wondered if it was real. 500,000 warships. They had been built quietly, under different names, disguised as mining vessels, transport freighters, or abandoned projects. Only a few at the highest level of command knew the truth. And now, as the alien threat returned, the truth had to be revealed. In a vast underground chamber beneath the Atlantic, the Global Military Council gathered. Holographic maps lit the room, showing stars, colonies, and routes of alien sightings. The Supreme Commander stood before the council, his face pale but his voice steady. "We cannot hide anymore. The enemy has returned. They are circling us like predators. If we wait, Earth will burn. But we are not defenseless. For decades, our ancestors prepared for this day. We have 500,000 ships ready to rise." The words echoed in the chamber. Some officers gasped, others straightened with pride, but all of them knew the weight of what had been spoken. Humanity had a chance, but only if they acted now. Preparations began immediately. Across the solar system, hidden shipyards came alive. Engines that had slept for years roared awake. Massive hangar doors opened, revealing fleets upon fleets of dark warships. Civilians working in nearby sectors stared in shock as thousands of ships lifted into the void. Word spread quickly. At first, people thought it was rumor, but then they saw the sky. Over Earth itself, orbit lit up with colossal carriers, cruisers, and destroyers, rising from hidden stations. Families gathered on rooftops, watching the black silhouettes against the stars. Fear mixed with pride. They had never seen such power before. In New Shanghai, crowds filled the streets as the giant orbital docks launched wave after wave of ships. In Nairobi, children pointed at the night sky where glowing engines painted streaks across the darkness. On Mars, miners stopped work and stood silently as entire fleets rose from caverns carved into the red stone. Everywhere, humanity watched the awakening of its greatest secret. Families wept as soldiers boarded the warships. Some were young recruits, barely out of training, their eyes full of determination. Others were veterans, gray-haired and scarred, returning to service for one last fight. Mothers kissed their children goodbye, fathers shook the hands of sons who had chosen to join the fleet, and friends embraced with the unspoken fear that they might never meet again. The fleet was not only ships and machines. It was sacrifice, hope, and the will of millions ready to defend their kind. Commander Rian Holt, the survivor of Vega, stood on the deck of one of the largest carriers, watching as squadrons launched. His body was still recovering, but he refused to remain behind. He walked slowly, leaning on a cane, but his voice was strong when he addressed the young pilots before him. "I saw what they did to Vega. I saw the fire, the screams, the slaughter. They think we are weak. They think humanity will fall. But look around you. Look at these ships. Look at each other. We will fight, and we will show them that humanity does not die quietly. We fight for every colony, for every family, for every child they took from us. We fight for Vega. And we will not stop until the stars remember our name." The pilots saluted him, their eyes burning with determination. The speech spread through the fleet, shared across channels, repeated by soldiers in ready rooms and engineers in engine bays. For the first time since the fall of Vega, humanity felt not only fear, but strength. The aliens were stronger, faster, and crueler, but they were not infinite. Humanity had numbers, will, and something more powerful than any weapon, the refusal to kneel. In the council chambers, arguments continued. Some politicians still wanted to try peace talks, to send messages into the void, hoping the aliens would listen. But their voices grew weaker as the truth became undeniable. The aliens had sent only one message: more colonies will burn. There was no peace to be found. Only war. Engineers worked without sleep, preparing ships that had not been touched in years. Supplies were loaded, weapons tested, shields calibrated. Entire industries shifted overnight. Factories that once built farming machines now built plasma cannons. Civilian workers volunteered to transport supplies. Even prisoners were given choices: serve on the fleet or remain locked away as the galaxy burned. Humanity was uniting in ways it never had before. But there were still whispers of doubt. Some asked if the fleet was truly ready. 500,000 ships sounded like invincible strength, but numbers meant nothing if they were untested. Others wondered if the aliens had fleets larger still, hidden beyond human sight. Even the admirals knew the truth: the coming war would not be easy. They would bleed, perhaps more than anyone could imagine. Yet when the first waves of ships assembled in orbit, stretching across the blackness of space like a steel ocean, those doubts seemed to fade. The sheer sight of them was enough to bring hope. Families on Earth pointed at the sky and whispered, "We are not alone anymore. We are strong." The alien prisoner, still locked in the Luna base, was shown the live feed of the fleets rising. For the first time, it moved. Slowly, it tilted its head and let out a sound, half laugh, half growl. Then it spoke again, its broken human voice echoing through the chamber. "You think numbers save you? No. This, only beginning." The scientists shivered, but the generals only stared harder. They knew the alien was right. The war had not yet begun. And still, When the fleet lit its engines and prepared to move, there was no turning back. Across every channel, across every colony and city, a single message was broadcast. It was short, but it carried the weight of all humanity. 500,000 warships answer the call. In the silence of the galaxy, the message burned like fire. The aliens had returned. But now, so had humanity. And the stars themselves would soon tremble at the clash to come. The fleet moved like a storm across the black sea of space. 500,000 human warships, engines blazing, stretched from one horizon to the other, a wall of steel and firepower that had never before existed in human history. Entire planets watched the armada depart, their skies glowing as thousands of engines lit up the night. Families stood together, staring at the heavens, whispering prayers, cheering, or crying. For them, this was more than war. This was survival. The command ships transmitted orders in silence, encrypted signals bouncing across the vast network of vessels. No one spoke without purpose. The enemy was near, and they knew the cost of a single mistake. Ahead, scouts reported movement. Dark shapes appeared on the edge of human sensors, massive alien warships emerging from the void. The enemy fleet spread out like shadows, their hulls absorbing light, their weapons already burning with sickly green glow. They had come to finish what they started at Vega. Humanity had come to make them pay. The first clash began in silence. No words, no warnings. Just fire. Beams of plasma and energy lanced across the emptiness, tearing into shields, burning through armor. The void lit up like a storm of lightning. On the bridge of the flagship Eternal Resolve, Admiral Kalen watched the battle unfold. His voice was calm as he issued orders. Squadrons Alpha through Delta, flank left. Bring the carriers forward. Release fighters. Instantly, thousands of fighters burst from hangars, small but deadly, swarming toward the enemy like angry hornets. The aliens answered with their own swarms, twisted ships with jagged wings, moving with terrifying precision. Fighter met fighter, ship met ship, and the blackness turned into chaos. Explosions bloomed like suns. Hulls shattered. Engines died. Pilots screamed their last words into comms before vanishing into flame. The battle was brutal from the first second. Commander Rian Holt, still recovering but refusing to stand down, sat inside a command station aboard the carrier Vigilant Sky. His hands shook slightly, but his eyes were sharp. "Keep the line steady," he told his officers. "Don't break. If we break, they'll cut us apart. Hold the line." His words spread across the battle channel, a reminder that humanity could not afford fear now. Ships tightened their formations, shields overlapping, weapons firing in rhythm. For every human ship that fell, 3 more moved in to fill the gap. And yet, the aliens were relentless. Their ships twisted unnaturally, bending physics as if the void itself obeyed them. They cut through human squadrons with terrifying speed, their weapons ripping through shields like paper. Human vessels exploded one after another, and in the command chamber, silence grew heavy. The numbers on the display dropped too fast. But then the carriers launched their secret weapon. From hidden bays, massive drones and railgun platforms were released, automated machines designed to fire with mechanical precision. Thousands of railguns lit up, hurling projectiles at speeds faster than thought. The alien ships staggered as the barrage struck, their shields flashing, their hulls tearing. For the first time, the enemy faltered. Cheers erupted across human comms, but the admirals did not smile. This was only the beginning. In the center of the chaos, something far larger emerged. A massive alien dreadnought, so huge it blocked the stars behind it, slid into view. Its hull pulsed with eerie light, and its weapons glowed like suns ready to detonate. The dreadnought fired once, and 3 human destroyers vanished in fire. The shockwave tore through the fleet, shaking even the largest carriers. Fear spread like ice. "Focus fire," Admiral Kalen ordered. "Every heavy weapon on that dreadnought." Human battleships aligned, charging plasma cannons, missile silos, and railguns. The void shook as an ocean of firepower crashed into the alien monster. Explosions danced across its hull, but the ship did not fall. Instead, it roared back, unleashing beams that carved holes through human ranks. Dozens of ships went silent in seconds. It was a slaughter. On Earth, billions watched the battle unfold through live transmissions. They saw their fleets burning, their sons and daughters fighting against impossible odds. Silence filled homes, streets, and cities. Some cried, some prayed, but no one looked away. The battle was not just happening in space. It was happening in every heart. Then something changed. A formation of frigates, led by Captain Juno Marek, broke from the line. Against orders, they dove straight toward the dreadnought. Her voice came through comms, calm but fierce. "We can't kill it from a distance. We go in close. Tell my family. Tell them I did not run." Her frigates roared forward, dodging fire, weaving through alien blasts. One by one, her squadron was torn apart, ships exploding in flashes of light. But she pushed on, until only her frigate remained. With engines screaming, she rammed her ship directly into the dreadnought's weapon core. The explosion was blinding. For a moment, the void turned white. When the light faded, the dreadnought was crippled, its main weapon torn apart. Humanity roared with hope. The fleet surged forward, pressing the attack. Alien ships fell back, their formations breaking under the renewed assault. Human commanders shouted orders, soldiers cheered, and for the first time, it seemed victory was possible. But deep inside the alien fleet, more signals emerged. Dozens of new ships appeared, even larger, even deadlier. The aliens were not retreating. They were calling reinforcements. And they had more. Many more. The human cheers died as scanners revealed the truth. The first wave had only been a fraction of the alien strength. Humanity had unleashed 500,000 ships, but the enemy was bringing something greater still. On the bridge of eternal resolve, Admiral Kalen clenched his fists, his voice steady though his eyes burned with fire. "So this is how it is. Then we fight until the stars themselves go dark. We are humanity. And we will not kneel." Across the fleet, his words became a battle cry. Pilots, soldiers, engineers, captains, they all repeated the same vow. Humanity would fight, no matter the cost. And as the next wave of alien ships emerged, the great battle had only just begun. The second wave of alien ships arrived like a storm without end. Where the first wave had been terrifying, the second was overwhelming. Gigantic vessels with black hulls shaped like blades slid from the void, followed by endless ranks of warships glowing with unnatural light. Humanity's 500,000 ships suddenly felt small in the face of such darkness. On every screen, on every scanner, the numbers climbed higher and higher. There were millions of them. Entire constellations seemed to vanish behind their fleet. Fear gripped even the bravest soldiers. For a moment, silence spread across human comms. And then Admiral Kalen's voice cut through the void, steady and unbreakable. "We do not measure ourselves by their numbers. We measure ourselves by our will. We hold the line. We are the shield of humanity. And we do not fall." The words struck deep, carrying across channels into the hearts of every pilot and soldier. Engines flared. Weapons charged. Humanity braced for its last stand. The aliens struck first. Beams of green fire lanced across the void, cutting through human ranks like knives through paper. Entire squadrons vanished in seconds. The fleet staggered, but it did not break. Carriers unleashed wave after wave of fighters. Battleships poured plasma and railgun fire into the enemy. Destroyers sacrificed themselves to shield the larger vessels. The void became a sea of flame and wreckage. Every second cost lives. On the carrier Vigilant Sky, Commander Rian Holt refused to leave his post. His body was weak, but his voice was strong. "They want us to kneel. They want us to vanish. But listen to me, we are humanity. We are the storm. Fight. Make them remember Vega. Make them fear us." His words spread like fire. Pilots shouted war cries. Soldiers slammed their fists against their consoles. Even civilians watching from Earth felt their hearts burn. This was no longer just survival. This was defiance. The aliens pushed harder, sending their dreadnoughts forward, monstrous ships bristling with weapons. But humanity answered with every weapon it had. Massive railgun barrages tore holes through alien armor. Nuclear warheads detonated in blinding light, tearing apart entire squadrons. Kamikaze ships rammed directly into enemy vessels, shattering them with suicidal courage. The battle was chaos, but it was also unity. Every human ship fought as if connected by one heart. In the middle of the storm, Admiral Kalen watched his screens. The fleet was dying. Already, 100,000 ships were gone. But the enemy had lost even more. For the first time, the impossible seemed possible. Humanity was not only surviving, they were winning ground. Yet then the alien flagship arrived. It was larger than any dreadnought, a monstrous vessel so vast it looked like a moving planet. Its hull was alive, glowing with pulsing veins of light. When it fired, entire fleets of human ships disintegrated in seconds. Fear returned, heavy and cold. Humanity had never faced anything like it. Kalen's jaw tightened. If that ship survives, we lose everything. On the bridge of eternal resolve, silence filled the air as everyone understood the meaning. Someone had to destroy it, even if it meant death. Captain Juno Marek was gone, her sacrifice remembered in silence, but her spirit burned in all of them. Kalen turned to Commander Rian Holt, his old friend and survivor of Vega. "This is it, Rian. The last stand." Rian's eyes burned with fire. "Then let's make it count." A plan was formed, simple and desperate. The fleet would throw everything at the alien flagship, every weapon, every ship, every last drop of strength. It would not be strategy. It would be sacrifice. Across the fleet, the order went out. Final assault. For Earth. For humanity. There was no hesitation. Every ship turned toward the alien flagship. Engines screamed. Weapons lit the void. Humanity charged. The alien behemoth fired, tearing through waves of ships, but still they came. Frigates hurled themselves into its shields, sacrificing their lives to weaken its defenses. Battleships unleashed plasma storms that scorched its hull. Carriers emptied every last fighter into its wounds. The sky burned brighter than any sun. Rian Holt's carrier was at the front. His officers begged him to retreat, but he refused. He stood tall on the command deck, cane in one hand, voice strong. "Vega burned because we were not ready. But today we are ready. Today we fight back." His ship unleashed every weapon, railguns and plasma cannons screaming into the alien giant. The flagship shuddered under the assault, its armor cracking, its lights flickering. But still it lived. More ships fell, more lives vanished in fire. Humanity was bleeding out. Admiral Kalen saw the numbers drop, his fleet dying around him. He knew there was only one way. He turned to his crew. "Prepare the eternal resolve for ramming speed." His officers froze. To ram meant certain death. But Kalen did not waver. If we fall, humanity falls. If we succeed, humanity survives. There is no other choice. His crew saluted. None abandoned their posts. The eternal resolve, largest of humanity's ships, turned directly toward the alien flagship. Engines flared brighter than ever before. As it charged, the rest of the fleet opened fire, giving cover, sacrificing themselves so the flagship could reach its target. Alien weapons tore through Kalen's ship, ripping decks apart, killing hundreds, but still it came. Kalen stood on the bridge, hands gripping the railing, eyes locked on the alien monster ahead. "For humanity," he whispered. The eternal resolve struck. The impact was like a star exploding. The alien flagship shattered, its glowing veins bursting in a chain reaction. A blinding wave of fire spread across the void, tearing apart everything in its path. For minutes, the galaxy itself seemed to burn. When the light faded, Silence returned. The alien flagship was gone. The second wave was in ruins. The human fleet was broken, only fragments surviving, but they had not fallen. On Earth, billions watched, stunned and breathless. They saw the sacrifice, the fire, the last stand. And they knew. Humanity had survived the greatest storm in history. In the ruins of the battlefield, a few hundred ships limped forward, damaged and scarred. Among them was Rian Holt, alive but broken, his ship barely holding together. His voice crackled across comms, weak but steady. "We are still here. Remember that. Humanity still stands." Across Earth, across Mars, across every surviving colony, cheers erupted. Tears flowed. Bells rang. Humanity had bled, but it had not died. The galaxy would remember this day. Aliens had come to erase humanity. Instead, they had awakened something far greater. A species that would never kneel, never surrender, and never forget. The stars were no longer silent. Humanity had spoken, and the universe had heard.